Mexico are not just opening the World Cup today, they are being asked to rescue it. Because before the first whistle in Mexico City, this tournament already feels heavy. Not because of the football, because of everything around it. Visa chaos, ticket anger, protests in the streets, FIFA under fire again, and a World Cup so big, so stretched, and so political that the opening game suddenly feels like more than a match. It is Mexico against South Africa, but really, it is football against the noise. This was supposed to be the biggest football party ever staged. 48 teams, 104 matches, 3 host countries, 16 cities. The United States, Canada, and Mexico all sharing one giant World Cup. FIFA wanted scale. FIFA wanted spectacle. FIFA wanted the kind of tournament that looked too big to ignore. And on paper, the opening scene is perfect. Mexico City Stadium, the old Azteca, the place where Pelé became a world champion, the place where Diego Maradona lifted the trophy, the first stadium ever to host matches at 3 different men's World Cups. If you were designing a dramatic opening shot, you would choose this stadium. You would choose Mexico. You would choose the noise, the color, the flags, the history. But that is the strange thing about today. The football stage is perfect. The mood around it is not. In Mexico City, the World Cup has arrived with billboards, murals, flags, and famous faces selling the dream. But reports from the city have described something more muted than a fever. There is football everywhere, but there is also frustration. There are planned demonstrations. There is anger about ticket prices. There is criticism of FIFA. There is a feeling that Mexico, one of the actual hosts, is somehow being treated like the side entrance to a tournament dominated by American politics. And that is before you even get to the bigger storm. The World Cup has not kicked off, and already the headlines are about who was allowed into the tournament. A Somali referee, Omar Artan, was denied entry to the United States. He went home to Mogadishu and received a hero's welcome. Iranian officials accused the United States of withdrawing ticket allocations for their supporters. Some Iranian staff reportedly had visa problems. Iraq striker Ayman Hussein was reportedly questioned for hours after arriving in Chicago. Senegal and Uzbekistan reportedly faced heavy security searches. Sports journalists have raised concerns about visa restrictions, and all of this has landed right on top of FIFA's favorite word, unity. That is the image FIFA sells every 4 years. The world in one place. Flags next to flags. Fans crossing borders. Players carrying countries on their backs. But when the first major story of the tournament is about borders, security, and access, that message starts to crack. This is why Mexico's opener matters. It is not just a Group A game. It is the first chance for the actual football to fight back. And weirdly, Mexico know this role very well. They have been here before. In 1970, Mexico hosted the World Cup and reached the quarterfinals. In 1986, Mexico hosted the World Cup again and reached the quarterfinals again. Those tournaments became part of football memory, not because they were clean or simple, because the football was unforgettable. Pelé's Brazil in 1970, Maradona's Argentina in 1986, the goals, the heat, the stadiums, the kind of moments that make the politics fade into the background, at least for a while. That is the hope today. Mexico walk onto the pitch with more than 3 points on the line. They are carrying the first impression of the entire tournament, and that is a dangerous job, because Mexico are carrying their own pressure too. 4 years ago in Qatar, El Tri crashed out in the group stage. That was a shock to the system. For 7 straight World Cups before that, Mexico had escaped the group. It had almost become a national habit. Get through the group, reach the round of 16, then hit the wall. But in 2022, even that old pattern broke. Mexico went home early. The country was furious. The team looked stuck. And for a while, the feeling around Mexican football was not excitement. It was exhaustion. Now, just in time, the mood on the pitch has changed. Javier Aguirre is back at a World Cup with Mexico. That alone feels like a loop closing. He managed them in 2002. He managed them in 2010. And now, he is the man trying to make sure a home World Cup does not become a national embarrassment. Mexico have not lost in 2026. They drew with Belgium, they drew with Portugal, they beat Australia, then they smashed Serbia 5-1 in their final warm-up. Suddenly, the team looks alive. Suddenly, the opener is not just about fear, it is about possibility. Brian Gutierrez has become one of the names to watch. Alexis Vega is part of the attacking picture. Raul Jimenez is still a familiar face in a familiar pressure cooker. And the stadium will expect Mexico to act like hosts. Not polite hosts, not nervous hosts, real hosts. The kind that take control of the room. But South Africa are not just a prop in Mexico's opening ceremony. That is what makes this match dangerous. The fixture itself carries history. Mexico against South Africa was also the opening game of the 2010 World Cup. Back then, South Africa were the hosts. The Vuvuzelas were everywhere. everywhere. Sipiwe Chabalala scored one of the most famous opening goals in World Cup history. The match ended 1-1, and for a moment, it felt like the whole tournament belonged to Bafana Bafana. Now the roles are reversed. Mexico are the hosts. South Africa are the visitors. And if South Africa can spoil this opening night, the story flips instantly. Because South Africa arrive as underdogs. They are ranked far below Mexico. They have never reached the knockout stage at a World Cup. Their previous appearances ended in the group stage. Even when they hosted in 2010, they went out early. So on paper, this is Mexico's game. The crowd, the stadium, the form, the history, the pressure, all of it points in one direction. But opening games do strange things to favorites. The favorite walks out thinking about the country watching. The underdog walks out thinking about the one mistake that could change everything. Mexico are supposed to win. South Africa only need to make the room uncomfortable. And that is where the drama is. Because if Mexico win well, the World Cup gets the reset it desperately needs. The headlines can move from visas to goals, from protests to celebrations, from FIFA politics to a team in green, white, and red making the old stadium shake. But if Mexico stumble, the whole first day becomes something else. A nervous host, a restless crowd, a tournament already surrounded by criticism, and a first game that makes the chaos feel louder, not quieter. That is why this opener is such a good story. It is not the biggest match of the tournament. It is not the best teams. It is not even the most glamorous fixture in Group A. But it is the first emotional test. Can the biggest World Cup ever actually feel like a World Cup? Or will it feel like an event that got too big for its own soul? That question does not get answered in a press conference. It gets answered when the ball rolls. And day one has one more layer. After Mexico against South Africa, South Korea play Czechia in Guadalajara. That match has its own tension. South Korea arrive with expectation. Son Heung-min is still chasing the one thing he has never had at a World Cup, a proper knockout stage run. Czechia are back on the World Cup stage for the first time since 2006. They came through the playoffs the hard way. Penalties, set pieces, chaos. So Group A is not just a warm-up. It starts with pressure, history, and two matches that can immediately change the tone. But everything begins with Mexico. That is the burden of hosting. You do not just play your match. You carry the ceremony. You carry the crowd. You carry the first screenshot. You carry the first viral clip. You carry every fan who wants to believe that after all the noise, the football can still win. And that is what makes today feel bigger than a normal opener. The World Cup is already surrounded by arguments. Some are about security, some are about money, some are about politics, some are about FIFA being FIFA. But for 90 minutes in Mexico City, there is a simple escape route, a goal, a save, a roar, a moment that reminds people why they cared in the first place. That is what Mexico are chasing. Not just a win, a change in temperature. Because if they start fast, if the stadium catches fire, if the opener gives people something real to talk about, then the story of this World Cup can finally move onto the pitch. But if the game is flat, nervous, or messy, the tournament's problems will not disappear. They will feel even bigger. So today, Mexico are playing South Africa, but they are also playing the shadow hanging over the whole tournament. And by the end of the first night, we will know whether football has started to drown out the chaos, or whether the chaos has only just begun.